On the day of the wedding, my husband jumped into the lake to save another woman. The guests looked at me as if I were a joke. I stood in the wedding hall for 6 hours. The red candles burned down until only an inch remained. My father arrived. He didn't look at anyone else. He only lifted my bridal veil. Girl, come home with father. The 10-mile bridal dowry was carried back the way it came. That night, the general returned, drenched in moisture. Looking at the empty bridal chamber, he stood frozen in place. I heard he knelt outside the Grand Preceptor's estate all night. His knees were raw and bloody from kneeling. My father only sent one message. If you want to marry my daughter, wait for the next life. Half the red candles had burned out. Wax drippings piled up like a small mountain. My veil was very heavy. The phoenix embroidered with gold thread weighed on my head, making my neck ache. The wedding hall was deathly silent. A silence mixed with a sense of schadenfreude. I could hear the guests whispering in low voices, like countless flies buzzing in my ears. It had been 6 hours. The general still hadn't returned. If a woman can't even hold on to her own wedding, the Grand Preceptor's reputation is utterly ruined. More than just his reputation. Ha ha ha, look at that 10-mile dowry, stretching from the south to the north of the city. And now look at this. The groom ran away, and I stood there motionless. My body had long since gone numb. Today was supposed to be the big day for me and Lu Xiao. An hour ago, we were just about to perform the ceremonial bows. Miss Lu fell into the Qinshin Lake behind the estate. Lu Ruyan, his childhood sweetheart, a distant cousin staying at the estate. A woman who always wore white, spoke in a soft, delicate voice and looked like she would collapse in a light breeze. But just before Lu Xiao rushed out, through the gap in my bridal veil, I saw him clearly. He turned and headed toward the backyard. And then came the news that she had fallen into the water. The guests went from initial shock, to quiet whispers, to now openly watching the spectacle unfold. Lu Xiao's mother, my soon-to-be mother-in-law, finally couldn't sit still. Yan Huan, you are a daughter of a noble family. You should be more understanding. Ruyan has a weak constitution. And this happened because she rushed here to celebrate your wedding. It's only natural for Lu Xiao to save her. Lu Xiao going to save her is the right thing to do. What do you look like standing here like this? You're only making yourself a laughingstock. It felt as if a lump of red-hot coal was stuck in my throat. I couldn't utter a single word. Understanding? On my wedding day, my husband abandoned me to save another woman. And I'm supposed to be understanding? Watching him risk everything for someone else. While I stand here like a fool, wearing this ridiculous veil, subject to everyone's judgment and mockery. I'm supposed to be understanding? Why haven't you taken off the veil yourself? Are you waiting for Lu Xiao to come back and do it for you? Don't put on your airs as the Grand Preceptor's daughter. Once you enter the gates of the general's estate, you must follow the rules of the general's estate. My father taught me etiquette and rights since I was a child. To follow the rules. I studied the rules for 18 years. Yet on my wedding day, in the most unbearable way, all my dignity was torn to shreds. The candle flame flickered even lower. Half the guests in the hall had already left. The remaining ones were only waiting for the final outcome, to see the joke play out to the end. Lu Xiao's mother had already gone back to rest. Before leaving, she spat out, how truly nonsensical. In the vast wedding hall, only I remained with that priceless dowry, which now seemed utterly ironic. Just when I felt I couldn't support myself anymore, when my bones felt about to crumble, there was a commotion at the entrance. A figure walked in against the light. His imposing face bore no expression. It was my father, the current Grand Preceptor, Ji Hong. From the moment he stepped in, his gaze was fixed on me. Everyone held their breath, waiting to see how the Grand Preceptor would end this. Would he scold his daughter for being unreasonable, or would he humbly try to salvage the general's face? For a peaceful resolution? My father said nothing. He merely raised his hand and gently lifted my red veil. The moment the veil was lifted, the tears I'd held back for hours finally rolled down uncontrollably. I saw my father's eyes, those eyes that had read countless memorials and understood the ways of the world. There was no blame, no disappointment, only overwhelming heartache. Girl, come home with father. He didn't say anything else. He just turned to the guards he'd brought and issued his second command. Carry every single piece of the young mistress's dowry back home immediately. The guards began their work, taking the rosewood chests marked with the happiness character and moving them out one by one. The guests were stunned. This wasn't an exit. This was a complete takeover. To take back a 10-mile dowry intact was more humiliating than a public slap in the face. This was telling everyone in the capital that the daughter of the Ji family was no longer marrying. I followed my father out, step by step. The moment I crossed the threshold of the wedding hall, my back straightened once more. The wind dried the tears on my face, blowing away my last illusions about Lu Xiao. From the north to the south of the city, that trail of red looked like a long, bleeding wound, carved into the twilight of the capital. When we returned to the Grand Preceptor's estate, it was already dark. The servants stood on either side with bated breath, not even daring to breathe loudly. My father dismissed everyone and personally escorted me to my chamber. Everything in the room was just as I had left it. The scriptures I hadn't finished copying were still on the desk. It was as if that sensational wedding was nothing more than an absurd dream. Father poured me a cup of hot tea, watching me take small sips. What happened today? You don't need to take it to heart. You are not at fault. I held the warm cup and shook my head. Father, I'm not wrong, but I've become the laughingstock of the capital. A laughingstock? Who would dare laugh? I will make sure they never laugh again. My daughter, Ji Hong's daughter, even if she never marries, will be protected for a lifetime. No one shall bully her. The Lu family leads the military officials. They hold military power. If we do this, military power? Military power is granted by His Majesty, not owned by the Lu family. If he can abandon you at the wedding, for the sake of a woman, tomorrow he could abandon his monarch for something else. Can His Majesty rest easy employing such a man? I instantly understood my father's meaning. This matter was no longer just about family honor. He had turned this into a chess piece. A piece that could be played on the grand stage of the imperial court. That night, I took off the heavy wedding gown and changed into my usual clothes. A night without worry. Early the next morning, the news spread throughout the entire estate. Miss, my maid, Xiao Tao, came running in. The General Lu is kneeling outside our gates. My hand, which was combing my hair, paused. When did he start? I heard he rushed back in the middle of the night. When he returned and saw the bridal chamber empty, and that you and the dowry were gone, he completely lost his composure. The servants at his estate say, the old general was so furious he enforced military law, giving him dozens of strikes with a rod. Then, despite his injuries, he ran to our gates. Ha ha ha, he's been kneeling since late last night. He's been there all night. His knees are raw. I only find it ridiculous. If he knew it would come to this, why did he do it in the first place? Does he think such a self-harming ruse can erase the humiliation I suffered? Does he think my father will soften his heart? He doesn't understand my father at all, nor the me who has already died once. Sure enough, my father gave no reaction all morning. He went to the morning court as usual, then returned to handle business in his study, as if the man kneeling outside didn't exist. Not until afternoon did the butler rush in to report, Master, someone from the palace is here. They say His Majesty wants you and General Lu to enter the palace for an audience. Go and send a message to General Lu. If you want to marry my daughter, in the next life. The palace-bound carriage rolled over the bluestone road, making a dull, rumbling sound. Regarding today's matter, this imperial summons is certainly not just about family issues. I didn't go to court. Father didn't let me go. A daughter of the Ji family has suffered a great wrong. There is no reason for her to be judged in the palace with a bowed head. If he wants to apologize, Lu Xiao should come with a grand carriage and all the formal betrothal rites. To request again. According to the news later, the air in the imperial study that day was freezing. His Majesty sat high upon the throne, looking down at the two ministers kneeling before him. One was his most trusted civil official, the other his most trusted general on the battlefield. Now, these two were at each other's throats, over a marriage gone wrong. Your Majesty, the fault is entirely mine. I was momentarily confused, failing both Yan Huan and the Grand Preceptor's trust. I will accept any punishment. I only beg your Majesty and the Grand Preceptor to give me one more chance, to make amends for my mistakes. He lowered his posture completely, taking all the blame upon himself. It sounded responsible, but it came far too late. My father, Ji Hong, from beginning to end, didn't even spare him. A single glance. Minister Lu, you were indeed confused. Marriage is not a joke. You left the Grand Preceptor's daughter waiting at the altar for 6 hours, making her and her family the laughingstock of the capital. This was handled very poorly. Minister Ji, I know you are upset. Your daughter is the apple of your eye. Suffering such a grievance is something no one could bear. However, Lu Xiao has performed great military services for the dynasty, and the stability of the capital relies on him. If your families become enemies, it would be detrimental to the court. Perhaps anyone else would have taken the exit provided, but my father is Ji Hong. He looked directly at the emperor. Your Majesty, I have only this one daughter. I taught her etiquette since childhood, to strictly follow the rules. I originally thought I had found a perfect marriage for her, entrusting her to a reliable man. The joke is, this man, on her most important day, discarded her like trash for another woman. Your Majesty speaks of the court's stability. I ask your Majesty, a man who can easily betray his vow to his wedded wife, how can you trust him to keep his promises to his monarch and country? Today, he can abandon his bride for personal feelings. In the future, will he abandon the city and people he is sworn to protect? Once these words were spoken, the air in the imperial study froze. My father had elevated Lu Xiao's moral failing to a direct challenge of his loyalty and capability as a general. This was no longer a family matter. This was shaking the foundations of the state. Lu Xiao looked up sharply, his face as pale as paper, his lips trembled, but he couldn't utter a single word of rebuttal, for my father's logic was as sharp as it was indisputable. The emperor's face also became extremely grave. He looked deeply at my father. After a long while, he slowly spoke. Minister Ji, your meaning, I understand. Lu Xiao, you are dismissed. Go home and think carefully on how to obtain the forgiveness of the Grand Preceptor and Miss Ji. This matter, I will no longer interfere with. When my father returned from the palace, it was dusk. He told me everything that happened in the imperial study, omitting nothing. Finally, he asked me seriously, Yan Huan, I spoke very harshly today before the emperor, severing all possibilities for you and Lu Xiao. Do you blame me? Father, you did the right thing. I've realized something. Marriage is not the only path for a woman. Since that path is blocked, then I will simply stop walking it. At that moment, I saw my father's eyes well up. Since that confrontation in the palace, the scandal of the broken engagement became a taboo topic in the capital, spoken of only in hushed whispers. The general's estate, knowing they were in the wrong, kept their gates closed and sent no one else. From that day on, Lu Xiao completely vanished from public view. I heard he was placed under house arrest by the old general, spending his days reflecting in silence. The bluestone path outside the gates finally returned to its former quiet. My life also seemed to return to its track. Every morning, I would accompany father for breakfast, then go to the study to help him organize the mountain of memorials and documents. I read quickly and learned fast. Father never hid state affairs from me, even giving me advice and pointers. He seemed to be training me as an heir who could carry on his legacy, rather than just a daughter sheltered in the inner chambers. Those days were calm and fulfilling. This afternoon, I was organizing my former dowry list. Those items that once held all my beautiful fantasies, now, in my eyes, were just cold ledger entries. Xiao Tao walked in, with a strange look on her face. Miss, outside, there are some rumors about you. That I am jealous? Or that I'm using my father's power to show the general no mercy? It's nothing but that. Miss, how did you know? Of course I know. The general's estate suffered such a loss. Lu Zhao's mother is a petty and protective person. It would be strange if they didn't try something behind my back. During this half-month, I've had Xiao Tao quietly gather news about the general's estate. I knew Lu Xiao was confined, but that pitiful white lotus, Lu Ruyan, had been taken into his mother's courtyard to be personally cared for, claiming she felt for the girl's lonely state. How ridiculous. A woman who caused a son's marriage to fail and ruined a family alliance was now being treated like a precious adopted daughter. This wasn't just adoption. This was a direct provocation toward the Grand Preceptor's estate. They say you couldn't tolerate Miss Lu even before the wedding, that you bullied her many times, and that you intentionally provoked her on the wedding day, causing her to fall into the lake in her distress. This is completely twisting the truth. Miss, we can't just let them ruin your reputation like this. Don't worry, let them talk. The nastier they are now, the harder they will fall later. My eyes fell on a page in the ledger. It listed a set of 12-month flower goddess porcelain tea sets, handcrafted by a master of the previous dynasty, exquisite and worth a fortune. I remember Lu Xiao mentioned once that Lu Ruyan loved white porcelain the most. Xiao Tao, go to the warehouse and take out those 12-month flower sets. What do you need those for? I'm going to sell them. Miss, these are precious mementos left to you by your mother. How can you sell them? They are just objects. No memento is more important than a living person's reputation. And I won't just sell them normally. I'm going to hold an appreciation fair. I'll invite all the prominent noblewomen and young ladies in the capital. I want everyone to know that I, Ji Yanhuan, am a bit short on funds. That news will spread to every corner of the capital. That I even had to sell my mother's heirlooms. This is the first step. Miss wants everyone to know that since we took back the dowry and lost so many betrothal gifts, our finances are suffering. People always sympathize with the underdog when a victim of a great grievance has to sell her mother's belongings just to maintain her dignity. Who do you think they will believe? I'm not just doing this for sympathy. I will use this fair to roast Lu Ruyan and the general's estate on an open fire. I want to see, when the tea set she dreams of appears at the fair, if she can resist it. Will she ask Lu Xiao to buy it? If she doesn't, it proves her previous passion was all an act. If she does, and Lu Xiao buys it, even better. A man who just abandoned his bride, spending a fortune for another woman to buy his former fiancé's mother's heirloom. That spectacle will be far more fascinating than simple rumors. Inside the general's estate, the atmosphere was as heavy as a storm over the sea. General Lu Zhen sat in full armor at the head of the hall, his face ashen. Kneeling before him was Lu Xiao, his simple robes unable to hide his bruises. You ungrateful son, I told you to reflect on your actions. What have you been doing? Father, I know my mistake. You know it? I think you have no idea where you went wrong. Do you think you're wrong because you saved a life? No. You're wrong because you were stupid. Wrong for not knowing the time or place. Wrong for misjudging what matters. During the ceremony, in front of all the guests in the city, you abandoned your bride. You didn't just throw away Ji Hong's face. You threw away the honor of generations of the Lu family. Ji Hong's words before the emperor have seized the lifeline of every military general. Since ancient times, what a monarch fears most is a general holding military power becoming too arrogant to follow orders. Your behavior has precisely confirmed that unpredictability. His Majesty didn't strip you of your military power on the spot, only because of your past contributions, and the loyalty our Lu family has shown for generations. But look at you. What have you and your foolish mother done? General, please don't be angry with Brother Xiao. It's all Ruyan's fault. It's just Ruyan's bad luck. I shouldn't have fallen into the water then, bringing such big trouble to Brother Xiao and the general's family. Her face was pale, her eyes were red, looking fragile and precarious, as if she might faint at any moment. When Madame Lu saw her son kneeling on the ground, her heart instantly ached. Master, what are you doing? Xiaoer is still injured. What's wrong with him saving a life? Should he have just watched Ruyan drown? I think the one in the wrong is that Ji Yanhuan. Ji Yanhuan is narrow-minded and makes a mountain out of a molehill. Humph, wasn't it just waiting a bit longer? She caused such a scene, breaking the engagement and returning home, and even had her father file a complaint before His Majesty, causing our shower to be beaten black and blue by you. What do you know? Between women, long hair means short wit. I may have a woman's perspective, but Ruyan is such a good child, gentle and sensible, well-educated and polite. Nothing like that Ji Yanhuan, who is arrogant and domineering, and bullies others. Shower, listen to mother. It's better not to have that kind of woman. Once the rumors die down, mother will make the decision to let you marry Ruyan. Mother, please stop talking. Lu Xiao hurried to interrupt her, his expression looking even worse. And Lu Ruyan, standing aside, heard this. A flash of joy crossing her eyes. Uncle, aunt, I beg you, please stop arguing because of me. Ruyan is an ominous person, who only brings disaster to those around her. Brother Xiao, you should go and bring Sister Yanhuan back. As long as you two can reconcile. Ruyan is willing to leave the capital immediately, to live by the green lamp and ancient Buddha, ending this remnant life. This move of retreating to advance, combined with her miserable appearance, instantly struck Lu Xiao's heart. In its softest spot, he hurried forward to help her up, his eyes full of heartache and guilt. Ruyan, what nonsense are you talking? Your body is so weak. Where could you go if you left the general's estate? How could I let you live that kind of life? He looked at the fragile woman in his arms, then at his aggressive mother, and his furious father. He only felt mentally and physically exhausted. He knew he had wronged Ji Yanhuan, but seeing Lu Ruyan like this, he couldn't harden his heart. He felt caught in the middle, burdened by responsibilities he couldn't shed. The old general, Lu Zhen, watched this scene, feeling a surge of blood stuck in his chest. He finally understood. His son was completely under the thumb of this woman, named Lu Ruyan. He slumped back into his chair, closed his eyes, and felt annoyed even looking at them. Fine, fine. I won't care anymore. Resolve your own mess yourselves. Just don't forget, Ji Hong is no pushover, and that daughter of his is no simple character either. The cause you sow today will surely bear fruit you cannot bear in the future. After saying that, he stood up and stormed off, leaving behind this ridiculous mess. Madame Lu watched her husband's departing figure, curled her lips in disdain, and turned to take Lu Ruyan's hand. Good child, she comforted warmly. Don't be afraid. With me here, no one can bully you. That Ji Yanhuan, she's just putting on a show right now. I want to see how a woman whose marriage was called off can ever establish herself in the capital again. News that the Grand Preceptor's estate was holding an appreciation fair was like a stone thrown into the already restless circle of noble women, stirring up 1,000 waves. The invitations were exceptionally elegant. On the light green paper, the words appreciating rare treasures were written in delicate calligraphy. The signature read, Ji Yanhuan. No extra formalities, no excessive embellishment, yet it exuded an air of detachment and nobility. These invitations were only sent to families of second-rank officials and above, as well as several prominent merchant families. Those who received an invitation were all influential figures in the capital's social circle. For a time, rumors were rife, and everyone was speculating. Have you heard? The Grand Preceptor's daughter is going to sell her dowry. Not just the dowry. I heard she's even selling the treasures left to her by her late mother. Why is this? The Grand Preceptor's house is so wealthy. How could they fall to this state? Don't you know? The day the general's estate broke the engagement, the Grand Preceptor was so furious that he not only sent back the miles of dowry, but also ordered all the betrothal gifts from the Lu family to be returned as well. There was a lot of gold and silver in those gifts, along with land deeds and manors. After such a move, the Grand Preceptor's face was saved, but their liquid assets must be quite tight now. When all is said and done, Miss Ji is the pitiful one, a favored daughter of heaven, ruined like this by General Lu and that Lu girl. These words, whether true or false, whether out of sympathy or curiosity, reached my ears without missing a word. I just smiled faintly, and continued on the list of items for sale, placing the 12-month flower goddess tea set in the most prominent position. Public opinion was a fire I lit myself. Now it was burning, exactly in the direction I intended. I wanted this pity. Only by standing low enough, and acting weak enough, could I make everyone point the finger at the high and mighty general's estate. And the general's estate indeed received the news at this moment. And, you have no idea, it spread everywhere outside. They say Ji Yanhuan, to spite you and cousin Xiao, returned all the betrothal gifts. Now she's so short on cash she can't even eat, and has to sell her dowry and heirlooms. She even specifically wants to sell a set of 12-month flower goddess white porcelain tea set, saying it's a treasure left by her mother. 12-month flower goddess? I knew she was just bluffing. A woman whose engagement was broken, without a husband's family as a backer. Even if her father is the Grand Preceptor, can he protect her forever? Ha ha ha. Now she knows what it's like to have no money. She deserves it. As she was gloating, she didn't notice Lu Ruyan, who was massaging her legs, stiffened her body suddenly. Upon hearing the words 12-month flower goddess, a burning light instantly erupted in her eyes. That tea set, she had seen it on Ji Yanhuan's dowry list, described as white as jade, thin as a cicada's wing shimmering in the light. On each cup was a lifelike goddess of the month. It was a masterpiece by a master of the previous dynasty, a rare treasure that couldn't be bought. She dreamed of owning it, not just because of its beauty and rarity, but because it used to belong to Ji Yanhuan, an heirloom from her mother. If she could get Lu Xiao to buy it and present it to her, it would be the ultimate humiliation and victory over Ji Yanhuan. That entire day, Lu Ruyan seemed restless. When Lu Xiao came to see her that evening, she was sitting by the window, weeping by a solitary lamp. Ruyan, during these past few days, he had been confined to the house, suffering internally. Only here with Lu Ruyan could he find a moment of peace. Lu Ruyan turned around, looking at him with teary eyes. I'm fine, Brother Xiao, I just heard some rumors outside, and I feel sad for Sister Yanhuan. I heard, Sister Yanhuan is going to sell her mother's heirlooms. Among them is a set, the white porcelain tea set she treasures most. I remember you once said, Brother Xiao, that tea set is a matchless treasure. Sister Yanhuan must be very short on money to do this. It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, she wouldn't. Her words were like needles pricking Lu Xiao's heart. He certainly knew about that tea set. He still remembered, when he first saw that dowry list, he had smilingly said to Ji Yanhuan, Ruyan loves white porcelain most. When she sees this set in the future, she will surely be envious. How did Ji Yanhuan answer then? This is a memento my mother left for me. I will cherish it for a lifetime. Cherish it for a lifetime. But now she had to sell it. Lu Xiao's heart felt as if it were being gripped by an invisible hand, making it hard to breathe. He knew, Ji Yanhuan's move was intended for him to see. Seeing his face turn pale, Lu Ruyan knew the time had come. She gently pulled Lu Xiao's sleeve, her voice carrying a hint of pleading and longing. Brother Xiao, I just feel that's such a treasure. If it falls into the hands of a merchant who doesn't understand its value, it would be such a pity. It's so beautiful. It should be cherished by someone who understands it. She didn't say it outright, but every word was a hint. Lu Xiao looked at her face full of desire, and a battle raged within him. He knew this was a trap set by Ji Yanhuan, a trap to make him make a choice again. In front of the whole capital, going would be inviting humiliation. Not going, he couldn't face Lu Ruyan's tearful eyes. Finally, as if he had made a decision, he closed his eyes tiredly and nodded. I understand. I will go on the day of the fair. The fair was held in the Shihua Hall of the Grand Preceptor's estate. It wasn't as grand as the main hall, where countless banquets had been held, but because it was adjacent to an exquisite garden, it appeared exceptionally elegant. Several antique pieces of furniture were arranged in the hall, and elegant incense burned in the corners. I wore a moon-white, plain long dress, with a white magnolia hairpin in my hair. Without heavy makeup, my skin looked as white as snow, and my features were ethereal. I didn't sit in the main seat, but like an ordinary hostess, I walked through the hall, personally serving Junshan silver needle tea to the ladies and young misses. My manner was composed, even carrying a faint smile, but this composure, in the eyes of the crowd, became a heartbreaking kind of strength. The Grand Preceptor's daughter has truly become more serene. Yes, to remain so calm after such an ordeal. Anyone else would have withered away in their room. Look how much weight she's lost, and her face is so pale. It's truly heart-wrenching. General Lu was truly blind. I listened to these whispered discussions, with no ripple in my heart. I walked to the center of the hall, where items for sale were arranged. On fine sandalwood shelves, there were famous paintings, imperial jade carvings, and several pieces of jewelry, carefully collected by my mother. Each piece was worth a fortune, and each drew gasps of admiration. But everyone's eyes were eventually drawn to the tea set. In the center, it was placed alone, on a tray covered in black velvet. Is this the legendary 12-month flower goddess cup set? It is indeed a rare treasure. With such a treasure, is Miss G really willing to sell it? I walked to the tray, and gently touched the cool porcelain. My voice wasn't loud, but it was enough for everyone present to hear. When my mother was alive, she often said, the beauty of an object lies in its circulation. If I can find a new owner who truly appreciates and cherishes them, it would be fulfilling their destiny. Today, I've invited you all to fulfill a wish for these old items. My words were elegant, and my posture was perfect. It preserved our family's dignity, while confirming the rumors of financial hardship. The ladies present nodded, looking at me with even more approval and sympathy. Just as the atmosphere in the hall reached a subtle harmony, the servant at the door suddenly announced, General Lu has arrived. In an instant, the chatter and whispering in the hall seemed to hit a pause button. Everyone's eyes swiveled toward the door. Lu Xiao appeared in a black robe, his stature tall but unable to hide his exhaustion and haggard appearance. His gaze bypassed all the shocked faces and landed directly on me. I met his gaze without flinching. My heart was as calm as stagnant water. After a brief silence, the guests began to cover their mouths with fans, erupting in intense whispers. Why is he here? He has the nerve to show up? Look at him, he must be here to beg for Miss G's forgiveness. Amidst the discussion, I slowly walked forward and stood 3 steps away from him, slightly bending my knees in a standard formal curtsy. I did not know General Lu would grace us with his presence. What brings you here? Lu Zhao's Adam's apple bobbed, as if 1,000 words were stuck in his throat, but he couldn't say a single one. I didn't wait for his answer, and turned to order the butler beside me. A visitor is a guest. Since he is a guest, there is no reason to turn him away. Go, bring a seat for General Liu, and serve him tea. My words stunned everyone. My father's butler, Uncle G, even frowned. Miss, go, bring a seat for General Liu, and serve him tea. Our Grand Preceptor's estate is open for business. We don't have a rule of turning away customers. Business, customer, these two words were like two loud slaps across Lu Xiao's face. His face instantly became whiter than paper. Uncle G looked at my determined expression, then at Lu Xiao's ashen face. He finally sighed, waved his hand for a servant to bring a chair, and placed it in the lowest position. Lu Xiao sat down stiffly, under everyone's gaze, in that seat that represented humiliation. He was like a late, uninvited, and most unwelcome guest, sitting there alone, enduring looks of sympathy, disdain, or schadenfreude. At that moment, I knew. My first step had landed firmly. I didn't look at him again, as if he were just an insignificant background. I continued to smile and chat with the guests, introducing the history of each item. Every movement showed the poise and dignity of a noble daughter. Soon, it was time for the most important part. I personally walked to the 12-month flower goddess tea set, and signaled the maid to show it to everyone. Xiao Tao carefully picked up one of the cups, the one with the winter plum blossoms. Against the light, the silver-white cup became translucent. The plum branches and the delicate goddess were so clear they seemed to step out of the cup. Sparse shadows tilt across clear, shallow water. A hidden fragrance floats under the moon at dusk, truly divine. My late mother loved plums most, and she loved this cup most. She said a woman should be like a plum blossom, not fearing the cold, standing proud on the branch, to gain her fragrance. Regrettably, such a treasure must now find a new master. This tea set, with 12 cups in total, and one teapot, will not be sold separately. The starting price is 5,000 taels. 5,000 taels of silver. When the price was announced, the whole room gasped. This was nearly the entire fortune of a medium-sized merchant. I wanted this exact price. I didn't want it bought by some unknown merchant. I wanted the price to be so high that only a few could afford it. For example, royalty with deep pockets, or incredibly wealthy families, or a general who had just received countless rewards for winning a war. For a moment, no one in the hall made a bid. Everyone's eyes drifted intentionally toward Lu Xiao. It had become a puzzle. Everyone wanted to see if this general, who abandoned his fiancée for his soulmate, would once again spend a fortune for that woman. Lu Xiao's face was incredibly grim. He sat there, his back straight, his hands clenched into fists, veins popping on the back of his hands. He could feel countless gazes piercing him like knives. He knew that if he spoke up today, his reputation for prioritizing a mistress and being heartless would be set in stone. He would become the biggest laughingstock. But before he came, Lu Ruyan's tear-streaked face, and her words, "Brother Xiao, I only ask for this one memento," wouldn't leave his mind. He was caught in an unprecedented dilemma. Time ticked away. Just when everyone thought this scene would end awkwardly with no bidders, Lu Xiao finally stood up. I bid 6,000 taels. The moment those words landed, the entire hall became so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Then came the sound of suppressed gasps. He actually bought it. I looked at him, still wearing that polite, formal smile, but in the depths of my eyes was bottomless ice. General Liu is truly generous. Since the general is so sincere, then this 12-month flower set belongs to the general. I signaled Xiao Tao to package the tea set carefully. Lu Xiao took a stack of banknotes from his robe and handed them over. I took the banknotes without even looking at them, and handed them directly to Ji Bo behind me. Then I gave Lu Xiao a deep, formal bow. Thank you, General Liu, for your generosity in resolving my urgent financial crisis. I thank you for it. I emphasized the words urgent crisis very clearly. Lu Xiao's body swayed slightly. His lips quivered, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he couldn't utter a single word. He took the brocade box from the servant, and practically fled the scene. Looking at his retreating back, the guests could no longer contain themselves, and the sound of gossip rose like a tide. Crazy, he's truly gone mad. He threw away his dignity for a woman. 6,000 taels, all just to buy a set of teaware to please that Lu Ruyan. The Grand General's reputation can't possibly withstand such scandals. This time, Miss Ji and the General's manor have completely cut ties. There's no room left for reconciliation. Amidst the noise, I walked to the center of the hall, and held up the stack of banknotes. Ladies and gentlemen, the total proceeds from today's exhibition amount to 9,300 taels. I, Yan Huan, have decided not to keep a single penny of this money. I will donate it all to Cian Hall, to be used as compensation for the families of soldiers who died in the Battle of Northern Territory. My words were like a thunderclap in the hall. Everyone looked at me in stunned silence. My gaze remained clear and steady under their watch. Our soldiers sacrificed their lives for our country. They traded their lives for our peace. As citizens of Daeong, the reason we can enjoy peace is because they carry the heavy burden forward. Though I am but a woman, I wish to do my part for the families of these heroes. Having said that, I solemnly handed the banknotes over to the head of the capital Cian Hall, a female official sent by the highly respected eldest princess. The official took my hand excitedly and said, Miss G, your benevolence moves me. On behalf of those orphans and widows, I thank you for your great kindness. At that moment, the hall fell silent. All previous sympathy about my financial state and my selling of family property instantly transformed into profound admiration. I used Lu Zhao's 6,000 taels to buy back my own reputation for gold and jade, and he, with those 6,000 taels, bought himself an infamy he can never wash away. I won this battle. I won it cleanly and decisively. It was late at night when Lu Xiao returned to the general's manor. The brocade box he held in his hands felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds, making every step he took exceptionally difficult. He had become the sinner of the general's manor, and the laughingstock of the entire capital. Walking through the quiet courtyard, he headed straight for Lu Ruyan's residence, Tingyu Pavilion. The lights were still on there. The dim candlelight through the window paper was the only warmth he could think of at this moment. He pushed open the door, and a faint scent of medicine mixed with incense greeted him. Lu Ruyan was sitting in front of the dressing table, obviously having waited for a long time. Hearing the sound, she immediately turned around in delight. When her gaze landed on the box in Lu Zhao's hand, her eyes lit up instantly. All her sickness and sorrow vanished, replaced by a nearly greedy euphoria. She ran forward impatiently and reached out for the brocade box. Brother Xiao, you're back. You really bought it back. Lu Xiao didn't move, letting her take the box from him. His body was stiff like a stone, his heart completely numb. Lu Ruyan placed the box on the table like a treasure and carefully opened it. When the shimmering 12-month flower goddess tea set was revealed in its entirety, she let out a satisfied sigh. It's even more beautiful than the rumors. She obsessively touched the cool, smooth porcelain, unable to put it down. Brother Xiao, thank you. I knew I was the one you loved most. She looked up, her face wearing the smile of a victor, expecting Lu Zhao's embrace and tenderness. However, what she saw was a bloodless face, filled with exhaustion and emptiness. Brother Xiao, what's wrong? Why do you look so terrible? Was it Ji Yanhuan again? Did she make things difficult for you? Lu Xiao looked at her, at the unconcealed possessiveness in her eyes. He could no longer see any of the pure, ethereal image from his memory. For the first time, he felt that the woman before him was such a stranger. He slowly, word by word, told her everything that had happened at the exhibition. As he recounted the events, the joy on Lu Ruyan's face gradually faded, replaced by shock, disbelief, and finally, uncontrollable rage. How dare she? How dare she? How dare she do this? She's humiliating me. She used the money you spent on my gift to gain favor and a good name for herself. She's playing us both for fools. Brother Xiao, how could you let her do that? You should have stood up and stopped her then. Lu Xiao looked at her in disbelief. He thought he would get comfort, or at least a bit of understanding, but all he got was a face full of accusations. Stop her? What right did I have to stop her? They were her things. The money she got for them, how she chose to dispose of it, is no one's business. Do you think I wasn't humiliated enough today? In front of all the elites of the capital, I was played like a fool by her. And all you care about is this tea set? Only about your own pride? This was the first time he spoke harshly to Lu Ruyan. Lu Ruyan was stunned. She didn't expect Lu Xiao, who always obeyed her, to speak to her in such a tone. Grievance and anger instantly welled up in her heart. Brother Xiao, how can you say that about me? I only wanted a gift from you, to prove that you care about me. Is that wrong? It's that Ji Yanhuan who is too vicious. She just can't stand to see us happy. Listening to this distorted, tearful complaint, the last bit of warmth in Lu Zhao's heart completely cooled down. He suddenly felt very tired, an unprecedented exhaustion seeping from his bones. He looked at the woman crying before him, and remembered the calm, steady, and cold-eyed Ji Yanhuan in the hall. One dragged him into a quagmire, making him suffer utter humiliation. The other used his money to pave a path to glory for herself, winning the applause of everyone. What exactly was he doing to end up at this stage today? Just then, the door was pushed open with a bang. The old general's trusted steward, Lu Fu, stood at the door with a blank expression. Young master, the old general orders you to the ancestral hall immediately. He has questions for you. Unlike the gloomy atmosphere of the general's manor, the night at the Grand Preceptor's manor was quiet and peaceful. The study was brightly lit with candles. I was sitting opposite my father. Father, Ji Hong, held a black chess piece. Hesitating to place it for a long time, he looked at the chessboard, but his gaze seemed to pierce through the game and land on me. Regarding the exhibition, you did very well, retreating to advance, using the enemy's strength against them, using Lu Zhao's silver to build your own reputation for virtue. This move of taking the fuel from under the pot not only made him lose all face, but also made it so the general's manor can never hold their heads up in moral matters again. I placed my white piece down. I have only learned a bit of father's wisdom. Rather than passively accepting others' sympathy, it's better to take the initiative and turn that sympathy into true prestige. Since Lu Xiao wanted to play the part of the hero, sacrificing all for a beauty, I simply followed along and set the stage for him to perform to his heart's content. Father looked at the path I had blocked on the board, and instead of being angry, he smiled and stroked his beard. You girl, your mind is even deeper than I thought. However, by donating that money to CIN Hall, to support the families of fallen soldiers, while brilliant, it essentially puts the Lu father and son over a volcano. Lu Zhen has high prestige in the army, but after this, how will the soldiers view the Lu family? That is not for me to consider. Since Lu Xiao could ignore national duty, for his own personal feelings, he should bear the consequences. The loyalty of the army and the people cannot be maintained forever, based solely on past achievements. Didn't father always teach me that water can carry a boat, but it can also overturn it? Father looked at me deeply after hearing this. In his eyes, besides approval, there was a trace of complex emotion. He perhaps didn't expect that the daughter who once only knew of poems and flowers would, after experiencing a bone-chilling betrayal, grow up so quickly and so resolutely. Now that you've grown, do what you want to do. If the sky falls, your father will hold it up for you. The conversation that night seemed to reach a new understanding between my father and me. We were no longer just father and daughter, but more like allies on the same front. The next day, this understanding was confirmed in the most unexpected way. Just as the morning court session ended, the palace sent a special envoy to the Grand Preceptor's manor to deliver the emperor's decree. It wasn't an ordinary eunuch, but the chief eunuch of the imperial presence, Eunuch Wang. Behind him were several young eunuchs, carrying a tray covered with a bright yellow silk cloth. I went out with father to kneel and receive the decree. Eunuch Wang unfolded the decree, and, with his unique, slightly shrill voice, read it aloud. By the grace of heaven, the emperor decrees, Ji Yanhuan, daughter of the Grand Preceptor Ji Hong, is of noble character and observes all rights. Despite family misfortunes, her will remains unbroken. She has donated her personal wealth to support the families of loyal soldiers. Such heart is commendable, and such actions deserve recognition. This pleases the emperor. To honor her virtue, she is hereby titled Country Lady of Anha, with a fief of 300 households. So it is decreed. The hall fell into a dead silence. Everyone was dazed by this sudden grace from heaven. A country lady, this was an official noble title, with its own fiefdom, though it was the lowest rank of nobility, for an unmarried woman, especially one who had just gone through a broken engagement. This was an immense honor. This meant that my identity was no longer just the Grand Preceptor's daughter, and certainly not the abandoned fiancée of the general's manor, but a noble woman with independent status, invested by the imperial family. The emperor's move was profound. He didn't directly interfere in the conflict between the general's manor and the preceptor's manor, but with this one decree, he clearly stated his position. He was telling everyone that he approved of my actions, and that he stood on the Ji family's side. This was also the harshest slap to the general's manor. The daughter-in-law your general's manor didn't want has been titled a country lady by my imperial decree. Your heartlessness and lack of loyalty only highlights the Ji family's virtue and loyalty. I raised my hands above my head, respectfully took the decree, and kowed out to thank him. I, Ji Yanhuan, thank your majesty for your immense grace. Long live the emperor. Long live the emperor. I knew that Lu Xiao had earned this decree for me. With his stupidity and disgraceful behavior, he pushed me step by step onto this high platform that didn't originally belong to me. From now on, between him and me, it wasn't just a failed engagement, but a difference as vast as the clouds and the mud. The news of Ji Yanhuan's title as Country Lady of Anha spread like it had wings, reaching every street and alley of the capital within a day. Storytellers in tea houses and taverns immediately turned this into new stories. The tale of the infatuated general and the wealthy mistress contrasted with the virtuous lady titled Country Lady. How misfortune turned to blessing, and how Ji Yanhuan became a model of virtue. For a time, my reputation reached an unprecedented peak. I was no longer that poor, jilted victim, but a resilient and benevolent woman, a legendary figure recognized by the emperor. In sharp contrast to this, was the deserted and lifeless general's manor. While the entire capital was discussing my reward, another imperial decree was quietly delivered to the general's manor. The manor's ancestral hall was filled with sandalwood smoke. The tablets of ancestors were arranged solemnly. Lu Xiao had already been on the cold floor tiles, kneeling for a whole night. The old general, Lu Zhen, stood before him with hands behind his back, having not slept a wink, looking as if he had aged 10 years overnight. He didn't beat or scold him. He just looked in silence at the son kneeling on the ground, his eyes filled with disappointment. Just then, Eunuch Wang arrived once again with another decree. This time, the friendly smile he had at the preceptor's manor was gone, replaced by a cold, businesslike indifference. General Lu Xiao, received the decree. Lu Zhen and Lu Xiao's hearts both sank as they knelt. Eunuch Wang unfolded the decree. The voice in the empty ancestral hall sounded exceptionally clear and exceptionally cold. The emperor decrees, Lu Xiao, general of the state, was a young talent who served the country well. However, his recent actions have been eccentric, his personal conduct lacking in virtue, causing disharmony in his family and stir in the public opinion. He has failed to live up to our trust and neglected his duties to the court. Effective immediately, he is stripped of his position as vice commander of the Northern Army. His salary is suspended for 1 year. He is to remain confined for 3 months to reflect, and shall not leave without permission. We hope he learns his lesson and turns over a new leaf. So it is decreed, stripped of rank and confined for reflection. This decree was heavier than any military punishment or scolding. For a military commander, military power is his life and glory. Now, the emperor had personally taken away the thing he was most proud of. Although it was only the rank of vice commander, everyone understood that this was only the beginning. Lu Xun's voice was incredibly raspy as he thanked the emperor, as if he had used up all his strength. Lu Xiao was completely frozen. He knelt there, like a stone statue without a soul. Only when eunuch Wang placed the decree in his hand did he shudder as if waking from a dream. The words stripped of position were like 4 knives, stabbing ruthlessly into his heart. He thought back to his youth, fighting his way up in the military camp. He thought of the merits he earned with his life, and the promise he once made to his father, to surpass the Lu ancestors, and become a famous general of his generation. Now, all of it, because of his ridiculous feelings, had vanished into thin air. After eunuch Wang left, a deathly silence fell over the hall. After a long time, the old general finally spoke. Did you hear the decree clearly? From today on, you are no longer the vice commander of the Northern Army. You are just an ordinary man idle at home. Do you understand what this means? Lu Xiao didn't answer. He only knocked his head heavily on the floor. Of course he understood. It meant all his hard work had gone down the drain. It meant he would be an outcast in court and the army. It meant the century-old reputation of the Lu family was stained because of him. Lu Xun looked at him, and the last trace of hope in his eyes went out. Take care of yourself. The old general dragged his weary steps and turned to leave the hall, his back looking desolate and lonely. In the vast hall, only Lu Xiao was left. He knelt before the ancestors' tablets, clutching that cold imperial decree tightly in his hand. Images flashed uncontrollably in his mind. The image of the wedding day, Ji Yanhuan in her wedding dress, standing quietly in the ceremonial hall. The image of the exhibition, her in plain clothes, calmly announcing the donation of all the money. The image of the imperial decree arriving, where she was titled country lady, enjoying infinite glory. And what about himself? To save one woman, he threw away a happiness that was within his reach. To satisfy one woman's selfish desires, he pushed himself into a bottomless abyss. He thought he was keeping his responsibility to Lu Ruyan, but it turned out to be the most foolish obsession in the world. He lost. He lost everything. He was utterly defeated. He slowly raised his head and looked at the gray sky outside the hall, his eyes shedding tears of regret for the first time. He remembered the words from the preceptor's steward. If you want to marry my daughter, wait for your next life. It turned out that wasn't just a word of anger, but a judgment that had long seen through his ending. The decree titling me country lady of Anha was not just an honor, but it also brought with it a full set of ceremonial regalia and status symbols. On the 3rd day after the decree was issued, the Palace Bureau of Ceremonial Attire sent over the official robes of a country lady. Along with it was an official seal carved from high-quality mutton-fat white jade, with the characters Anha clearly engraved on it. I took the formal dress, which was mainly turquoise, embroidered with auspicious clouds and herbs. Father watched from the side, his eyes full of relief and pride. He knew that this official robe was a suit of armor I won through a grand gamble. The rank of country lady is not high, but with 300 households and a title, it's the same as being in the imperial genealogy. When you go out in the future, you won't be just the young lady of the preceptor's manor, but the country lady of Anha, representing imperial dignity. You must be even more cautious. Father gave me his earnest advice. I touched the cold official seal, my heart clear and calm. I understand. This dress and this seal are the dignity bestowed by His Majesty. I will not disgrace them. On the 7th day after the titling, I prepared a carriage, taking Jibo and a group of guards with me, and headed towards Cin Hall in the west of the city. Before going, I had already sent the 9,300 taels of silver from the exhibition in full, and I also took out another 10,000 taels from the remaining funds after selling my dowry to be deposited into the account of Cin Hall. My purpose: I never intended to just win a hollow reputation. Cin Hall is a state-run charity established during the previous dynasty specifically to house the orphans of fallen soldiers and their family members who have no one to support them. Although there have been government grants over the years, there were too many people and too little resources, so life has always been a struggle. When my carriage stopped at the entrance of Cin Hall, it caused quite a stir. The simple and even somewhat dilapidated gate stood in stark contrast to the clear emblem of the country lady of Anha. On my carriage, the head of Cin Hall was a gray-haired old woman. Her surname was Qin, and everyone called her Mother Qin. She was once a female laborer in the army, and both her husband and son died in battle in the north. Since then, she had stayed here to take care of others with similarly tragic fates. When she saw me, she was stunned for a moment. Then she led a group of children and women, preparing to kneel and pay respects. I stepped forward quickly to help her up myself. Mother Qin, you must not. Yanhuan did not come today, in the capacity of a country lady, but as a junior, to visit the families of the heroes who died for the country. I kept my posture humble, and my words sincere, instantly closing the distance between us. I didn't say too many hollow pleasantries, but directly asked Jibo to bring the account books. I sat with Mother Qin in the simple hall, checking the expenses and needs of the hall line by line. There are currently 342 people, including 73 elderly people over the age of 60, and 189 children under the age of 16. The rice and grains allocated by the court every month are just enough to cover the basic meals. It's just the charcoal in winter, clothing for the children, and the medicine for the elderly. that have always been the most difficult. Mother Qin said, her eyes turning red. I listened quietly, my pen recording quickly in the account book. Mother Qin, don't worry. From today on, all the charcoal expenses of Cin Hall, medical costs, and the stationery for all school-age children, will be fully borne by my manor of the country lady of Anha. I want this money to truly and effectively be used for everyone who needs it. In addition, I will invite the best doctors in the capital to come to Cin Hall for free consultations twice a month. The idle carriages in my manor will come every morning to pick up the children and take them to the city schools. The new year is approaching, and I will have the seamstresses in the embroidery room make a new set of clothes for everyone here. My words stunned everyone present. They never thought that an aristocratic lady raised in seclusion would consider everything so thoroughly and in such detail. Mother Qin trembled with excitement, her lips quivering, unable to say a complete sentence. Finally, she led all the women and children behind her and bowed deeply to me. This bow felt heavier than any kneeling or prostrating. I accepted it calmly. I knew that from this moment on, I was tightly linked to these 300 lives. They would become my strongest support and my most irrefutable achievement. On the other hand, in the ancestral hall of the general's manor, Lu Xiao was still kneeling. He listened to the faint noise from outside the manor, heard the servants whispering in low voices, and heard words like country lady of Anha and Cin Hall. Every word was like a loud slap, repeatedly striking him in the face. He used to think that Ji Yanhuan was just a traditional, submissive lady, without a man to rely on. She would only cry and wither away. But he was wrong. She was not a clinging vine that needed a tall tree. She was a winter plum that could bloom proudly even on a cliff. He pushed her off the cliff with his own hands, but she took deeper root at the bottom and bloomed into flowers that were even more vibrant and resolute. Regret, like a poisonous vine, wrapped around his heart inch by inch, making him struggle to breathe. Winter came earlier to the general's manor than in previous years, and it was colder. Madame Lu had been sick since that day. She wasn't truly suffering from a physical ailment, but a sickness of the heart. Her son's career was ruined, her husband was as cold as ice, and the family had become a laughingstock. This series of blows completely broke this woman, who had been pampered her whole life. She lay in bed, washing her face with tears every day, repeatedly saying, not how good Lu Ruyan was, but how vicious Ji Yanhuan was, and how blind she had been back then. Lu Ruyan's life also became extremely difficult. Lu Xiao was locked in the ancestral hall, and the old general ordered that no one was allowed to visit. Several times she tried to send soup and snacks, but was stopped by the new guards, standing at the door with cold faces. Moreover, Madame Lu took all her anger out on her. The exquisite meals and expensive tonics from before were now nowhere to be seen. They were replaced by cold rice and leftovers from the servants. When the maids in the manor saw her, they no longer greeted her respectfully but looked at her from afar, with a gaze mixed with contempt and schadenfreude, whispering among themselves. From a prospective mistress held in high esteem, overnight, she became an existence more awkward than the lowest servant. This huge gap drove Lu Ruyan to the brink of madness. She was not reconciled. She had put in so much effort and put on so many acts, seeing success within reach. How could she fall at the last step? This afternoon, she arrived outside the ancestral hall again, carrying a bowl of ginseng soup she made herself. Let me in. I'm here to bring soup to Brother Xiao. He is in poor health. He can't go without eating. Without the old general's command, no one is allowed in. The guards were expressionless, standing like two iron towers. Please, make an exception. If Brother Zhao's health fails because he's starving, can you take responsibility? Just then, a voice full of disgust and bitterness rang out from behind her. You still have the face to come here? You jinx. You've harmed my shower. Haven't you had enough? Lu Ruyan turned around and saw Madame Lu supported by two maids, glaring at her with resentment. Her former elegance was completely gone. Lu Ruyan immediately changed to a tearful and pitiful expression. I was just worried about Brother Xiao. Shut up. Ha ha ha. Worried? If you were truly worried about him, you shouldn't have pretended to throw the pot at the wedding. If you were truly worried about him, you shouldn't have egged him on to buy that stupid tea set, making him lose face in front of the whole capital. You vixen. Give me back my son. Madame Lu was acting like a madwoman, pointing at Lu Ruyan's nose and cursing. Lu Ruyan's face turned pale from the insults. She didn't expect Madame Lu to turn on her so quickly, and so completely. The ruthlessness in her bones was also sparked. Auntie, how can you say that to me? Who was it that said earlier? They liked how gentle and sensible I was? Who was it that said a haughty and domineering lady like Ji Yanhuan was not worthy of entering the general's manor? Now that something has happened to Brother Xiao, you push all the responsibility onto a weak woman like me? Don't you think that's too much? Madame Lu trembled with anger. You dare to talk back? Why wouldn't I dare? Lu Ruyan sneered, completely tearing off her disguise. Why wouldn't I dare? Do you know how much I've sacrificed for Brother Xiao? If it weren't for me, he would be with that ice block. But in his heart, there is no place for her at all. I am the one who let him know what true feelings are. I'm not wrong. The one who's wrong is Ji Yanhuan. She's narrow-minded. Her methods are vicious. Get out of here. Get out of the general's manor. Get out? Why should I? I am already Brother Zhao's woman. In my belly, I may already have the child of the Lu family. This sentence was like a thunderclap, making Madame Lu freeze in place instantly. Inside the ancestral hall, this ugly quarrel was heard clearly by Lu Xiao. He felt his world spinning, and a metallic taste rose in his throat. He held onto the cold pillar, and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He heard Lu Ruyan's words. I am already Brother Zhao's woman. Hearing her use the child in her belly, whether true or false, as a bargaining chip, it felt incredibly absurd and disgusting. The pure white moonlight he once believed in turned out to be a calculating, lying, and poisonous woman. Butler, he shouted, from now on, Lu Ruyan is not allowed to set foot in the ancestral hall again. Tell her, in this life and the next, I, Lu Xiao, sever all ties with her. Lu Xiao's words of severing ties were delivered by the butler to Lu Ruyan's ears word for word. At that moment, all expression froze on her face. Then came overwhelming panic. This was her last reliance, her only bet. Now, this life-saving straw was cut off by Lu Xiao himself. Madame Lu was also stunned for a long time by her claim of being pregnant, but Lu Xiao's resolute attitude made her wake up instantly. Whether what Lu Ruyan said was true or false, her son obviously loathed her to the extreme. Someone, take this lying woman who has brought shame to the family, and lock her in the woodshed in the backyard, without my command. She is not to be given a single bite of food or a drop of water. This news naturally reached my ears as well. I was at Cin Hall with several literate women, sorting through a new batch of fabric and medicinal herbs purchased from various shops. The sunlight shone through the window curtains. In the hall, the clear sound of children reading was constant. Everything was full of vitality and hope. Xiao Tao whispered in my ear, describing what happened at the general's manor. Vividly, she added satisfyingly, Miss, this is truly the evil being tormented by the wicked. Lu Ruyan has finally met her retribution. I just smiled faintly and turned a page in my account book, without making any comment on it. Whether it's Lu Xiao or Lu Ruyan, their love and hate feel to me like things from a previous life. I'm not even bothered to take pleasure in their misfortune because I know that once I chose to stand on a higher platform, my former enemies were no longer worthy of being my rivals. They themselves would drag each other into the abyss of destruction. I've sorted out the accounts for Cin Hall. I handed a new booklet to Mother Qin. The previous accounts were too messy. There were many unnecessary expenses and many funds that were withheld. This is the new budget I've set up. Take a look. Starting from next month, we will follow this. Every transaction must have a clear record. Ensure the accounts are clear, public, and transparent. I was not just showing kindness but setting rules. I wanted to turn Cin Hall into my own, absolutely stable base that could continuously provide me with prestige and connections. Mother Qin took the plan, looking at the well-organized items and plans, weeping with joy. She knew that everything I did would completely change the fate of everyone here. In the following days, I devoted almost all my energy to the affairs of Cin Hall. I taught the children to read and write, led the women in needlework to supplement their income, and even hired the best craftsmen in the capital to repair the dilapidated buildings of Cin Hall. The virtue of the country lady of Anha was no longer just superficial kindness, but became concrete and vivid, filled with real warmth. No one in the capital didn't know of it, and no one didn't speak of it. This afternoon, just as I returned to the manor from Cin Hall, Father called me to the study. His expression was more solemn than usual. Yan Huan, someone from the palace just came. Is it a decree from His Majesty? No. Father shook his head. It's an invitation from Her Majesty the Queen. She invites you into the palace in 3 days to attend the chrysanthemum banquet at Cunning Palace. I took the invitation. My heart slightly stirred. The Queen had always lived simply and rarely held banquets. This chrysanthemum banquet, although it invited many members of the imperial family, noble ladies, and wives of high officials, sending a separate invitation to me, a newly titled country lady, bore a profound implication. Entering the palace this time is not like an ordinary banquet. The Queen is the head of the inner palace. Her attitude toward you will determine your status in the capital's entire circle of noble households. You must be cautious in your words and actions. Watch and listen more, and speak less. I understand. I gripped the invitation tightly. I knew that this was not just a banquet for admiring flowers. It was a severe test. 3 days later, at Cunning Palace, I rode in the specially granted carriage bearing the emblem of the country lady of Anha, slowly entering the palace. The chrysanthemum banquet was held in the west garden of Cunning Palace. This was the Queen's favorite garden. Inside, there were pavilions and corridors, murmuring streams, and thousands of pots of various chrysanthemums competing in splendor, weaving a magnificent tapestry. When I arrived, shadows were already flickering in the garden. The scent of fragrance everywhere. Almost all the prominent noblewomen and ladies in the capital had arrived. My appearance was like a drop of water in boiling oil, instantly causing the originally lively atmosphere to have a subtle tension. Everyone's gaze, overt or covert, was cast upon me. There was curiosity, scrutiny, admiration, and naturally, envy and hostility. I looked straight ahead, following the leading maid, walking slowly toward my seat. My seat was placed quite far forward, second only to a few imperial princesses and wives of top-ranking officials, even above several wives of marquises. This was undoubtedly the queen's intentional, immense favor, but it also put me in the conspicuous eye of the storm. Oh, isn't this the country lady of Anha? What a grand entrance. Sister, you are truly lucky. After having a marriage called off once, you immediately received the emperor's title, and became a unique legend in our Daeong dynasty. This kind of luck, others couldn't get even if they begged. I stopped and turned around. The one speaking was the legitimate daughter of Minister Son of the Ministry of War, Sun Wanner. Her father and Lu Jin both belonged to the military faction. She clearly came with ill intent today. Around her stood several noble ladies she was usually close with, covering their mouths with handkerchiefs, looking like they were watching a show. If it were the old me, hearing such barbed insults, I would have turned pale with anger, not knowing how to respond. But now, my heart had already been tempered as hard as a rock. I didn't get angry, but smiled slightly at her. The smile was calm and distant. Miss Sun is joking. My minor reputation hardly counts as being in the spotlight. It's just that His Majesty is benevolent and compassionate and couldn't bear to see the daughter of a subject suffer an injustice, so he granted this honor. I emphasized the words daughter of a subject very clearly. My status now was no longer just the daughter of a courtier. Then I changed my tone, adding a hint of sorrow to my voice. If it were possible, Yanhuan would rather not have this title of country lady, and instead trade it for the lives of those soldiers who sacrificed themselves in the north. Unexpectedly, thinking of the expectant eyes of those orphans and widows in Cian Hall, Yanhuan feels the burden on her shoulders is much heavier than this official robe. My words were flawless. I both brought up the emperor and shifted the topic to benevolence, righteousness, compassion, and the great cause of loyalty. Instantly, Sun Wanner's petty bickering was made to look incredibly beneath the dignity of the occasion. As expected, Sun Wanner's face turned green and white. She didn't expect me to respond like this, and for a moment, she couldn't find words to refute me. Just as the atmosphere fell into an awkward silence, a high-pitched announcement was heard. Her Majesty the Queen arrives. Everyone stood up quickly and knelt in unison. I knelt with everyone else, and from the corner of my eye, I saw the hem of a bright yellow phoenix robe stop in front of me. A well-maintained hand, wearing elaborate nail guards, gently helped me up. So you are the country lady of Anha. You may rise. This queen has long wanted to see a remarkable woman who has such a heart of kindness. Seeing you today, your poise is indeed extraordinary. Under the gaze of all the noble women and ladies in the garden, the queen publicly gave me a unique mark of favor. I knew that this banquet had just begun. The queen's favor was a supreme honor, but also the sharpest blade. She lifted me up high, and also made me a target. Among countless complex gazes, I was personally arranged by the queen to sit beside her. This position was even more prestigious than that of several elder princesses. Sun Wanner sat not far away, her pretty face flushed red, the handkerchief in her hand almost shredded by her grip. The way she looked at me now had a hint of fear mixed with her resentment. The banquet began with music and dancing, the atmosphere peaceful. The queen did not say much more. I was just laughing and chatting with everyone as usual, tasting fine food and wine, but everyone knew in their hearts, the protagonist of today's banquet is me, the newly appointed Lady Anha. After several rounds of wine, Her Majesty the Empress suddenly set down her chopsticks. She looked at me, Anha, with a smile. I have heard that you have managed the Cian Hall in an orderly fashion, not only providing food and clothing for those orphans and widows, but also hiring teachers to teach the children how to read and write. Is this true? Responding to Your Majesty, it is indeed true. I believe giving them fish is not as good as teaching them how to fish. Money will always run out one day, but if they can learn a skill and read the books of sages, then they can truly establish themselves in the future and serve the country. Well said. Teaching them how to fish. This is the first time I've heard of such a thing. Such a saying is truly profound. It is clear you not only have a kind heart, but also great foresight. As soon as she finished speaking, Sun Wanner seized the opportunity to stand up. Lady Anha is truly impressive. However, with over 300 people at Cian Hall, the daily expenses must be no small amount. Lady Anha donates money, hires teachers, and renovates the dormitories. I wonder where this silver comes from. I hope it's not just to gain a reputation, and that the Grand Tutor's lifelong savings haven't been emptied out. Her question was sinister. On the surface, it seemed like concern, but secretly, she was questioning my source of funds, hinting that I act without considering the consequences and might even be using public funds from the Grand Tutor's estate. I was not flustered at all. I calmly took out a booklet from my sleeve, presented it with both hands. Thank you for your concern, Miss Sunday. This is the ledger I kept for Cian Hall. It records the source of every sum in detail, and the destination. All accounts are open and transparent. Every month, it is publicly displayed outside Cian Hall, for supervision. I asked the Empress and all the ladies to review it. My thorough preparation surprised everyone. The Empress, the female official by her side, took the booklet and flipped through it, then whispered a few words in the Empress's ear. The smile on the Empress's face deepened. She nodded with satisfaction. Very good. You act with prudence. The clear accounts show that this was not a whim, but that you have truly taken this matter to heart. Anha, you are worthy of the title bestowed by His Majesty. Sun Wanner's plan backfired miserably. Having hit a wall, she could only sit back down in embarrassment. After this small disturbance, no one else dared to provoke me easily. The atmosphere of the banquet returned to harmony. Just when I thought today would pass safely, an elderly lady sitting across from me suddenly raised her cup to me. She was the princess consort of Prince Rui, the sister-in-law of the late emperor. She had a very high status but was always low profile and rarely participated in such disputes. Lady Anha, I take the liberty to ask. I heard that the root of the chaos in the general's mansion that day was a girl named Lu Ruyan. A trace of suspicion rose in my heart. I didn't know why she suddenly mentioned this person, but I still answered respectfully, replying to your highness. It was indeed her. A flash of reminiscence passed through the princess of Rui's clouded eyes. She spoke slowly. Lu Ruyan, that name reminds me of an old event from over 10 years ago. The Jiangnan Salt Transport Commissioner, Lu Qingji, due to a massive embezzlement case, had his entire family executed. Only a young daughter went missing. I remember. That girl's name seemed to be Ruyan as well. Her voice was not loud, but it was like a bolt of lightning, instantly clearing the fog in my mind. Lu Qingji, Jiangnan Salt Transport Commissioner. In my father's study, there seemed to be files concerning this old case, and it was an unsolved mystery. It was said that the huge amount of tax silver Lu Qingji embezzled ultimately disappeared without a trace, and he himself died mysteriously in prison. No proof after death. If the Lu Ruyan in the general's mansion is the daughter of the Salt Transport Commissioner, then her approaching Lu Xiao, was it really because of simple admiration? Or is it that behind all of this, behind the scenes, hides a revenge plan spanning over 10 years? My hand holding the teacup trembled imperceptibly. I realized that I might have accidentally touched a massive and dangerous web. From Cunning Palace back to the Grand Tutor's mansion, it was already dusk. The sunset dyed the sky into a magnificent rainbow, but I was in no mood to admire it. The words of the Princess of Rui were like a stone thrown into a deep pond, stirring up ripples in my heart layer after layer. I did not return to my own courtyard, but went straight to my father's study. As expected, he was sitting behind the desk, holding a cup of hot tea. He seemed to have been waiting for me for a long time. You're back. Today in the palace, did everything go smoothly? Smooth, yet not smooth. I told him everything that happened in the palace, especially the conversation with the Princess of Rui, relating it exactly as it happened. When I mentioned the Jiangnan Salt Transport Commissioner, the name Lu Qingji, I clearly saw my father's hand holding the teacup jerk violently. A few drops of tea spilled out, landing on his purple official robe. His expression instantly became incredibly grave. Lu Qingji. He put down the teacup, slowly uttering the name. That case. I remember it was an old case from 15 years ago. At that time, it shocked both the court and the commoners. The implications were vast. Lu Qingji was accused of embezzling a full 3 million taels of salt tax. The evidence was conclusive, but he himself, while being escorted to the capital, died strangely. That massive sum of 3 million taels also went missing since then. It became an unsolved mystery. Father stood up and walked to the bookshelf. From a hidden compartment on the highest level, he took out a locked black iron box. He used a key to open it, and took out a roll of faded, old yellowed files. This is a safety copy left by the inspector, who risked his life overseeing the case back then. Father unfolded the files before me. In the official files, Lu Qingji was guilty of heinous crimes, and committed suicide out of fear of punishment. But this copy records that Lu Qingji cried out for justice multiple times, claiming he was being framed, and the real mastermind was someone else. Unfortunately, before he could reveal that person's name, he died an unnatural death. My heart, along with the unfolding files, sank bit by bit. Father, do you mean, if Lu Ruyan from the general's mansion is truly Lu Qingji's daughter, then her deliberate approach to Lu Xiao could never be for some romantic reason? Father's voice was cold as iron. There must be someone behind her, or rather, everything she did was to overturn her father's case, to find the real culprit who framed the Lu family back then. A terrifying guess formed in my mind. And the Lu family holds military power. They are the head of the military officials in the capital. If she could become the mistress of the general's mansion, it would be the same as grasping a force sufficient to shake the court. This force could be used for revenge, or it could be used for something else. Father and I looked at each other, both seeing deep wariness in each other's eyes. The nature of this matter has completely changed. This is no longer a simple broken engagement crisis, nor is it a drama of jealous women in the back courtyard. This is very likely a political conspiracy involving court politics, an old unsolved case, and massive wealth. Lu Xiao is merely a pawn being used in this grand game, an utterly stupid pawn. Yanhuan, this matter must be investigated immediately. We cannot be passive anymore. I understand. We must divide our efforts into two paths. First, immediately send reliable people to Jiangnan to verify Lu Ruyan's true identity. Look for the old servants of the Lu family. See if we can find irrefutable proof that she is Lu Qingji's daughter. That is the first step. Second, we must re-examine the salt tax embezzlement case. All officials who oversaw the case back then, and the person who benefited the most in the Jiangnan bureaucracy after the Lu family's fall, they are likely the mastermind. Exactly. The situation in Jiangnan, I have my own channels to investigate. As for the capital, Lu Ruyan is now locked in the woodshed of the general's mansion. She is suffering there. We need to find a way to separate her from it. I watched the night slowly fall outside the window. My heart felt cold. Originally, I only wanted Lu Xiao and Lu Ruyan to pay the price they deserved, to ruin their reputations. But now, I suddenly have a much more important goal. If I can uncover this old case and drag out the real embezzlers and masterminds, that wouldn't just be for myself, but also to perform an extraordinary service for my family. This merit is far more substantial than the empty title of Lady Anha, and it's also more stable. At that moment, I felt that the last remains of my resentment over personal love affairs had completely vanished, replaced by an unprecedented calm and a desire to control the entire situation. This game is getting more and more interesting. The general's mansion's woodshed was dark and damp. The air was filled with the smell of rotting wood and mold. A weak beam of light squeezed through the cracks in the wall, illuminating the dust dancing in the air. Lu Ruyan curled up on a pile of hay in the corner. The dress that was once beautiful was now covered in filth. Her hair was disheveled, her face haggard. There was no longer the usual pitiable look in her eyes, only a beast-like madness and venom born from being cornered. With a creak, the heavy wooden door was pushed open. The blinding light made her instinctively squint her eyes. A tall and familiar figure walked toward her step by step against the light. It was Lu Xiao. His face was paler than hers, eyes sunken. A rough stubble had grown on his chin. A sliver of hope instantly ignited in Lu Ruyan's heart. She struggled to crawl to Lu Xiao's feet, grabbing his clothes tightly. "Xiao Gij, you've finally come. I knew you wouldn't abandon me. It's Mother. She's the one who locked me here. She won't give me food. She wants to starve me to death. Xiao Gij, take me away quickly." Lu Xiao didn't move, only looking down, with an expression she had never seen before. A cold and strange gaze, looking down at her, like looking at a clown. "Take you away?" He spoke slowly. His voice was raspy, like two stones rubbing together. "To where? To go and deceive another fool like me? Xiao Gij, what are you saying?" Lu Xiao crouched down to eye level with her. In those eyes once full of tenderness, only endless coldness and disgust remained. "Do you know the name of the Jiangnan Salt Transport Commissioner, Lu Qingji?" That name was like a crash of thunder, exploding in Lu Ruyan's ear. The color instantly drained from her face. Her body trembled uncontrollably and violently. All her disguises were completely shattered at this moment. "I don't know what you're talking about." She denied it incoherently. Her eyes darted around in panic. "I don't know him. Even now, you're still acting?" "Lu Ruyan. No. Maybe I should call you Miss Lu. I really admire you. Admire how flawlessly you've lived these 10+ years. I, Lu Xiao, am merely the sharpest knife in your hand, the most obedient dog." He suddenly grabbed her wrist. His strength was so great, he almost crushed her bone. "All that effort to please me, being so submissive, we were practically like a pair of lovebirds. All of it was just to use me, to use the influence of the general's mansion, to overturn your father's case, right?" He growled. Every word seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth. Lu Ruyan was terrified by his appearance, and she was completely in despair. She knew everything was over. Since the disguise had been torn off, she simply stopped acting. The last bit of weakness in her eyes vanished completely. "Everything you said is correct. He wasn't a corrupt official. He was framed by villains. Our Lu family, over 100 people, home and family were destroyed overnight. I was only 7 years old. I saw with my own eyes my mother, trying to protect me, die under the blades of those soldiers raiding our home. I hid in a rice jar to luckily escape the disaster. I swore I would definitely overturn my father's case, and make those who killed our entire family pay back in blood. I was alone with no power or influence. What could I do? You are a great general, a favorite of the emperor. If I didn't look for you, who would I look for? Do you think I enjoyed smiling at you? Do you think I enjoyed serving that difficult and mean mother of yours? Every time I saw you people, I felt disgusted. I only treated you as a stepping stone. A stone that could let me climb up, let me reach higher power. A stepping stone that could let me find my enemies." Lu Xiao's heart was pierced through by these venomous and true words, wounded and riddled with holes. The pure love he once believed in, the white moonlight he protected at any cost. It turned out that from head to toe, it was all a carefully planned hoax and exploitation. He let go of his hand. He stumbled back 2 steps, as if all his strength had been drained. He leaned against the cold wall, letting out a beast-like wail of pain. "That 3 million taels of salt tax, that sum of hidden money that vanished. Where is it? You want to know? Fine, get me out of here. Help me find the enemy from back then, and I'll tell you the location of that money. It's a fortune that could rival a nation. Enough for you to make a comeback. Ha 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 ha. I, Lu Xiao, have had illustrious military achievements my whole life, open and above board. Yet because of you, I've fallen to such a state. My home is no longer a home. My fame and career are destroyed. I've become the laughingstock of the whole world. What right do I have to talk about a comeback?" He slowly stood up straight, looking at the woman he once loved to the core, but now hated to the bone. "Lu Ruyan, you're wrong. I won't save you, but I will help you find your enemy, because I want him to know that the conspiracy he carefully orchestrated, in the end, was crushed to pieces by you, the pawn he personally cultivated. I want to watch you two tear each other apart and go to hell together." With that, he didn't give her another look. He turned and decisively walked out of this woodshed that turned the first half of his life into a joke. The door slammed shut behind him, locking Lu Ruian's last bit of hope completely within the endless darkness. After leaving the woodshed, Lu Xiao did not return to his own courtyard. Instead, he did something that was unexpected to everyone. He changed into the most ordinary commoner's clothes and walked out of the general's mansion gates alone, heading straight for the Grand Tutor's mansion. He didn't kneel again, nor did he try to plead with anyone. He just handed over a letter and a small item wrapped in oilcloth to the Ji family guards at the gate. Then he turned and left without saying a word. His silhouette in the autumn wind of the capital looked incredibly lonely and despondent. That letter was soon delivered to my father's desk. I was at his side at the time, helping him organize the secret reports from Jiangnan. The handwriting on the paper was hasty and messy, exuding a sense of despair. In the letter, Lu Xiao detailed his conversation with Lu Ruian, as well as the identity and motives Lu Ruian had personally admitted. He wrote it all out in great detail. He did not defend himself at all. He only wrote at the end, "This sinful official Lu Xiao deserves 10,000 deaths. I only hope this letter can help the Grand Tutor uncover the truth. For the sake of the country, if I can use this broken body to trade for one last smile from Yanhuan, I will die without regret." Inside that oilcloth package was a small ivory-carved seal, engraved with the character Lu. It was Lu Ruian's personal seal, and proof of her identity. At the same time, the secret agent's father sent to Jiangnan also sent back decisive information. They found an old servant from the Lu residence back then. According to his identification, Lu Ruian's appearance was 70 to 80% similar to her mother in her youth. More importantly, the agents found out that after Lu Qingji's case occurred, there was a major purge in the Jiangnan bureaucracy, and the one who benefited the most and was promoted the fastest was the then prefect of Jiangning, now the Minister of War, Sun Xuzheng. Father looked at the secret report. A sharp light flashed in his eyes. Back then, he was only a small 7th-rank prefect. Now he is a high official rivaling me in the court. I already felt his origins were dubious, his foundation unstable, but I didn't think his roots were built upon 3 million tales of the people's wealth and over 100 human lives. All the clues converged at this moment, forming an inescapable web pointing at the Minister of War, the one mentioned above. Lu Ruian was merely a pawn placed in the capital. It was perhaps an old acquaintance of the Lu family, who found this palace made after the Lu family's downfall, raised her and indoctrinated her with revenge. He had her approach Lu Xiao with the goal of disrupting the general's mansion and its marriage alliance with the Grand Tutor's mansion, stirring up conflict between the civil and military officials so he could reap the benefits in the imperial court. He calculated everything perfectly, except for the human heart. He didn't expect that Ji Yanhuan wasn't a soft persimmon to be bullied. Even more so, he didn't expect his carefully cultivated pawn, Lu Ruian, in a state of desperation, would pour out all the secrets. "Father, we now have Lu Ruian's confession and her personal seal. It is time to make our move. Along with the investigation results from Jiangnan, it's enough to prove everything to His Majesty." I looked at Father, my voice carrying a hint of excitement. "No, it's not enough. These are all just circumstantial evidence. He has operated in the court for many years, and has many allies. With just this, he can completely deny it, claiming we forged the evidence, just to strike down a political rival. To deliver a fatal blow, we still need one piece of undeniable, ironclad proof. The whereabouts of that 3 million taels of salt tax." Father's gaze fell upon that letter. Lu Ruian once told Lu Xiao that she knew where the money was. It's impossible to keep such a large sum of money in an official treasury or his own manor. That would be too easy to expose. He must have hidden it in a place that no one would ever suspect, or converted it into another form, like land, shops, antiques, or jewelry. He would definitely do that. "Yanhuan, do you remember your treasure appraisal gathering? Did his wife attend as well?" "Yes, she even paid a high price to buy 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix painting." "Go and investigate. Investigate the Minister of War's manor and all their major purchase records in recent years, specifically those rare antiques and curios traded through underground money houses and the black market." He wouldn't dare deposit the silver directly into a bank, so he would definitely wash the dirty money this way. As long as we can find the ledgers of his transactions with those black market merchants, it will be ironclad proof of his corruption. 3 days later, at the capital's largest underground antique market, the Ghost Market, our men successfully found a hidden ledger in the home of a silenced merchant. It recorded all the secret transactions with the Minister of War's manor over the years. Every transaction amount, item, and time were clearly recorded in the ledger. The total amount was almost identical to the missing salt tax from back then. The evidence was as solid as a mountain. The next day, before dawn, my father, Ji Hong, put on his robes as a high-ranking official, holding that ledger, which decided the fates of countless people. He was the first to enter the palace before all the officials. A storm that could overturn the court was about to arrive. That day's morning court was destined to be recorded in history. The atmosphere in the Golden Throne Hall was solemn and grave. Officials lined both sides. The emperor sat high on the dragon throne. Just as the court agenda was about to begin as usual, my father, Ji Hong, stepped forward holding a petition, his voice booming. Your servant, Ji Hong, has a report to present. I wish to impeach Minister of War Sun Xuzheng for deceiving the emperor, corruption, and forming a faction for private gain. His crimes are unforgivable. These 16 earth-shattering words instantly plunged the entire Golden Throne Hall into a deathly silence. Everyone's gaze was focused on my father and Sun Xuzheng, whose face instantly turned pale. Ji Hong, you are slandering me, because our families are at odds. You use such despicable means to frame me. What are your intentions? Humph. Lord Sun, do you dare, in front of His Majesty, explain where your immense wealth from the last decade came from? Do you dare to explain this ledger, the 3 million taels in transaction records, between you and the capital's black markets? What is going on? The number 3 million taels was like a bolt of lightning, striking everyone present. That was exactly the amount of money that went missing in the Jiangnan salt tax embezzlement case 15 years ago. Sun Xuzheng's body swayed violently. Cold sweat instantly soaked through his official robes. He knew everything was over. The emperor's face was so dark it looked like it could drip water. He slammed his hand onto the dragon throne, his voice cold and ruthless. Strip the minister of war of his hat and robes. Throw him into the imperial prison to await trial and interrogation. Seize everyone related to this case. Investigate to the very end. I want to see how many more fat rats and woodworms are still hidden in my court. Following the emperor's command, the imperial guards outside the hall rushed in like wolves and tigers. Sun Xuzheng still wanted to argue, but he was pinned down firmly by the guards. Amidst the exclamations and chaos, he was dragged out in disgrace. A massive power that had occupied the court for over 10 years collapsed instantly before the ironclad proof. For the next half-month, the entire capital was shrouded in a tense atmosphere. Led by my father, Ji Hong, the Court of Judicial Review, the Ministry of Justice, and the Censorate followed this lead and uncovered one shocking case after another. Dozens of court officials were implicated and imprisoned. The seized properties, gold and silver filled the national treasury's warehouses. The Jiangnan salt tax embezzlement case was finally cleared. Lu Qingji's grievance was vindicated, and the Lu family's confiscated properties were all returned. Unfortunately, in the Lu family now, only Lu Ruyan remains, a lone survivor. After the case was concluded, the emperor summoned me alone to the imperial study. Anha, if not for your meticulousness in uncovering a treacherous conspiracy from within a household, I don't know to what extent these woodworms would have eaten away at our great Yong dynasty. You and the Grand Tutor have achieved immortal merit for the country. Tell me, what reward do you desire? Relieving your majesty's worries and eliminating evils for the people is my duty. I do not dare to ask for a reward. I only have one request. Speak. I humbly request that your majesty officially incorporate CN Hall into the government's establishment. Establish a CN fund with specific annual allocations from the national treasury. I will take full responsibility for its management, ensuring every penny is used where it counts, so that the families of all soldiers who died for the country can be cared for in their old age and their children educated with no more worries for the future. The emperor took a deep look at me, his eyes full of praise and admiration. He laughed heartily. What a Ji Yanhuan. Your vision and magnanimity surpass how many men in court who only chase after fame and merit. I grant it. Not only do I grant it, I shall further reward you. I title you Princess of Anha, with a fief of 2,000 households. This CN Hall shall be your domain, your foundation. From then on, I, Ji Yanhuan, became the first woman in the history of the great Yong dynasty to be titled a princess based on immortal merit alone, and those who once caused ripples in my life all had their final endings. Sun Xuzheng and his associates were all executed, paying the heaviest price for the crimes they committed. Lu Ruyan was spared the death penalty for exposing the conspiracy, but because her heart was crooked, she was sentenced to life imprisonment at Jing'an Temple outside the city. Accompanied by the Green Lantern and Ancient Buddha, she would repent for the hundreds of lives in the Lu family and for everything she had done for the rest of her life. As for Lu Xiao, after the case was closed, he came alone to the Grand Tutor's mansion gates. In the direction of my chambers, he kowtowed 3 times, head hitting the ground audibly. Afterward, he submitted a petition to the emperor to plead guilty, resigning all his titles, and went to the imperial tombs to guard the spirits of the late emperors for the rest of his life. The emperor granted it. That young general who once wore bright clothes and rode fast horses with a limitless future ultimately ended his ridiculous and tragic life in the most solitary of ways. I heard that on the day he left the capital, the old general, Lu Zhen's hair turned white overnight. He took the initiative to hand over his command seal and retired to seclusion. The once extremely powerful general's mansion fell into complete decline. It was a sunny afternoon. I stood in the courtyard of the newly renovated CN Hall, watching the courtyard full of children chasing and playing in the sun, their faces overflowing with carefree smiles. Qing Mama walked to my side, smiling and saying, "These days, how wonderful they are. Indeed, so wonderful." I gazed at the deep blue sky in the distance, feeling the warm sunshine, my heart filled with peace and satisfaction. I finally understood that a woman's value never lies in how good a man she marries, but in whether she can find her own place and live out her own brilliance. That abandoned wedding was once my lifelong humiliation, but looking back now, it became a springboard that freed me from the shackles of the past, allowing me to jump toward a broader, Freer sky. Lu Xiao, Lu Ruyan. They are already like fleeting smoke and clouds. And I, Ji Yanhuan, my life has only just begun.